Ba-da-bum-bum. Why am I wearing the hemp robe? A lot of people keep asking me to wear this, so actually the weather is perfect for it. I made this, by the way, on my sewing machine like 15 years ago. I was outside taking my pool down, and the mosquitoes decided to eat the living hell out of me. So I keep I keep itching because the mosquitoes must just think I'm absolutely delicious. I don't know why videos about land actually seem to upset people. They don't like them that much. I like making videos that are not only important to me, but I think that are important. I'm certain this one is. But also, too, informative videos. But I also, too, obviously listen to you all. I mean, I read every comment, and that's actually important. People like that, because when I make a comment on another YouTube video, you know, which is actually extremely rare that I actually ever do that. Like, well, this person is never going to read this. Why am I leaving a comment? But I actually do read every comment. That has a downside, too, because people leave really nasty comments, and I'm used to that, but I wanted to talk about land for just a second. I've had a lot of people, and I do mean a lot, said that they, and I don't give anybody life advice. I mean, I work too much, and nobody should be working, because I don't even have a wife and kids. My wife is dead, and I don't have any kids, and yet I still work. And my house is paid for, and my vehicle is paid for, and yet I still work 7 days a week to pay the bills. My hands are still sore from doing leather work yesterday, but really the one thing that's made me, other than the peace and wisdom of understanding, which of course is something completely different, the one thing that I'm happy to own is land. And I know there's property taxes associated with that. However, Kentucky property taxes are incredibly cheap. Like, my farm will be less than $500 this year. There's a subscriber, I don't want to give his name, and I don't want to say where his land is, because that's private. It's not my business, and I'm not interested in telling anybody's private info. But he picked up a beautiful Kentucky farm, and I think he's going to be moving there. But he only just acquired it, and the telephone company wants to stick a little junction box on the road on the edge of his land, so they want to buy a tiny strip, like 20 feet wide by 30 feet, and they want to give him several grand for that tiny little strip on the edge on the road of his land. And if you actually translated that out to what they're offering for that tiny little strip of land, I mean, they're basically offering him the equivalent of $50,000 an acre. So I don't know if he's going to take the offer. He told me about it, but he only just acquired the land, and he's already making his money back on it. I wanted to talk a couple things about the land, because everybody seems to poo-poo it. And when I was younger, I did investment in gold and silver, and of course we're talking about pure speculation. And even though gold and silver doesn't move that drastically, it's still volatile relative to land. People say, well, there could be global collapse and land will, completely fall into the pooper. Maybe like half the world's going to kick the bucket, and then of course there's going to be land everywhere for really cheap. There's no guarantees in this life other than death, taxes, and suffering. So let's just fess that up right now. However, I paid for my earlier home long before I met my wife earlier in life I have a sixth sense about land. I really do. And I bought desert scrub land out in Utah. It was actually north of Medina, Utah. And I mean, I made just a bunch of money off of that land. I mean, not anything where I'm going to roll up $100 bills and use them as lighters. Not that kind of money, and I made more money in a month than I was making in over a year. And anyway, I do have a sixth sense about land. I actually am very proud of the fact that I have a 100% track record on land. The past few years, I've sold everything that I have that I don't need to buy land. Just want to talk about some of the advantages of it. That raw land, we're not talking about something that has a house on it, right? Because with houses you have inspections and issues and termites and mediation. It's just all sorts of things. But just on raw land, we're talking about really a hands-off investment. My other piece of land that I have, which I don't want to say where it's at, I bought it for, it's just an amazing piece. And it's located in a relatively rich neighborhood behind it. And if any expansion is ever done or someone wants to buy it to put a large house on and have a piece of property, has a pond and a barn, I mean, I'll be sitting pretty. There's just no way I could lose money off of it. There's just nothing. I mean, it's like, what am I going to do to it? I don't need to mow it. Don't need to do it. You know, certain places in the United States are different. You know, they have rules and regulations and restrictions and stuff. 98% of Kentucky is not like that in many states in the South, you know, Georgia, Louisiana, Tennessee. I know there are variances, and there's even weird things in Colorado where you can't collect your own rainwater, which to me is insane. Like you can't put out a collection on the rainwater falling on your land, which just sounds so fascistic it's not even funny. But I'm definitely not talking about those places. But land is an extremely inexpensive thing to own. Raw land is once you own it, and it's the best long-term investment. I mean, think of all the volatile things, you know, like gold and silver, which is not that volatile. The stock market, of course, is incredibly volatile. Nothing, like I said, is guaranteed other than death and taxes and suffering, but I can think of nothing other than land. I mean, I've always held this position my entire life. You know, my life has been incredibly busy, you know, married for a hair over 10 years and, you know, living in Russia for a period of time in my life, and just infinite amounts of study and writing. And I think a lot of people don't see the incredible advantages of having raw land. I mean, we're talking about, and also too want to talk about some really important stuff, especially with what's going on in the world. A lot of people are deciding to get the hell out of the city. I'm still in a city right now, but I mean, if worse came to worse, or push came to shove, and get the hell out of here, go live in my cabin, or I could buy, as I told my buddy who just bought the Kentucky farm that he just got, if we can call it a farm. You need to buy a used single wide or double wide trailer. You know, it's about upscaling. You know, you don't have to have everything all at once. I mean, if you have the land, which is always going up, I mean, it really does, you know, barring, you know, some sort of horrific tragedy. 99 times out of 100, land is always going up. You can plop a single wide or double wide trailer on your land. I mean, you have that which, you know, will sustain you. You're able to plant crops, have a garden. You're able to have a buffer zone. Also, too, you make acquaintances with your neighbors, unless it's a really bad part of the United States, which there are certain places like that out in the distant countryside. Most of them are not. The neighbors band together. Where people are being pushed around in the world, and you know, they're just getting sick of the totalitarianism that's going on in the cities. Here's the important thing that people need to consider on ideal, and like all my land in Kentucky is ideal, and many southern states are ideal, less so out in the western states, is that authorities, they don't have the power or the numbers to really enforce anything out in the distant countryside. They have neither the power nor the numbers. But the important thing is that if they were to do anything untoward, word of mouth spreads like wildfire. And these authorities actually live in these small, distant, rural places, and they would be shunned. You know, the bad thing about living out, like say, in a distant countryside where my properties are at, is that people know who owns that piece of land, and you're on a first-name basis, and you meet with them. You want to do that. It's like, well, they know your business. They kind of watch what you're doing on your land. Of course, if you have a decent amount of land, they don't really know. Not that you need to keep anything super private, but everybody watches each other's backs. And but that also means that word spreads like wildfire, and any authorities to do anything, like the tyranny that I see going on in Australia. You can never ever get away with that here in rural America because the authorities literally, they have to go to the grocery store, they have to do ABC, XYZ that other people do. They would be completely shunned. So the authorities actually watch themselves. I mean, they really do. I don't care if you believe me or not. I mean, I know this is a fact. I've seen it borne out many, many countless times. Law enforcement in the city does not have any such fear. They don't. You could live literally like 4 houses away from the law enforcement if this were to happen. That is being abusive and tyrannical, and no one would even know that that person is there. That's the nature of city life. Out in the country, they know who you are. They'll shun you. Like you go to buy groceries and you've done something horrible, they won't even sell you groceries. There's a real benefit to living someplace remote because the authorities live there also. Self-reliant people are also, too, not sheep like city people. City people really are, let's go along to get along. Self-reliant people are very, very proactive and defensive, and that's a good thing. People's like, well, I've had Europeans tell me this. They're like, you trespass out in the countryside, they'll take you out. It's like, not really, If you're trespassing on their land, they'll give you a warning. But there's a huge positive to that. These people that are very proactive and protective of their property are also, too, the same of your property. And people know their neighbor's properties. I mean, my farm, I know everybody around me. I talk to them. We watch each other. I was just down at my farm. My neighbor heard me down there. He brought me over a bag of corn and a watermelon from his garden. I'm going to garden with him, have him farm some of my farm next year. And so owning your own land gives you a place to go camping whenever you want. Vacant or raw land doesn't really require any maintenance unless there's some sort of weird, freaky regulations in some, uptight state like Colorado or Washington. Or, some of these weird states are really uptight even on raw land. Vacant land is cheaper, i.e. raw land, cheaper and easier to purchase. I mean, I've purchased several different pieces, not big, but people that are really uptight, they're like, well, the government can come and take it. Well, they could also, come and take everything you own too. There are inherent because there are a lot of laws around land ownership, and the reason why there's so much protection in land ownership is because the really rich people, what they stick their money in. I hang around rich people. I've hung around super rich people. They like me because I know a lot of stuff and I never ask them for money. That's why they really like me. Never ask them for money, and I'm always a source of information for them. That's why they like me. These people have their money, an enormous amount of it, in land. Not like these TV commercials where you see like little piles of gold and silver that they keep locked up in their vault. No, it's in land. Land, ain't making no more of it. It's obviously a limited resource. Your raw land is very likely to possibly be your future home. I'm the biggest supporter of redundancy you've ever seen in life. Redundancy. Having a backup home or a place to call your own. You can go do whatever the hell you want on. It's yours. You do whatever you want. It's your land. This is my land on this little postage stamp of a small house in my city right here. I mean, I can't really do anything on it because there's neighbors everywhere and it's in the city. There's just tons and tons of laws. It's ridiculous living in the city. It's like, well, I own it. He's like, yeah, but you can't really do that much. So there's different types of land. There's city land where you own it, and there's the country land. You can do anything I want out in the country. You want to sit out on the front porch and, blow stuff out of the trees. Perfectly fine. I say that jokingly, but I'm serious. People that actually do that, You know, it doesn't have to be super, super remote. I mean, you're just talking about like a 10-minute drive to go to town to get groceries or whatever. In this new age where people have gone insane in the cities, and they really have, especially Australia. I can't believe the tyranny that I see down there. Also, too, stuff I see up in Canada. And I don't know what their laws are about land. I know Australians are telling me they're talking about taking land from the people down there through some sort of weird law. Outside, though, of global failure, land 99% of the time does nothing but do that. I don't give financial advice, but I've never ever made a bad decision on land. I never have, which is weird. I have a perfect track record on that. And I kind of wished, especially after when I was much younger in life, I bought desert scrub land out in Utah. You know, since I made more in a month than I normally make in over a year, I should have like flipped a switch in my head. Except I was just so busy in life, writing and studying, really, really deep study. I should have said to selves, like, you know, you need to stop working for other people. You just need to concentrate on raw land. You got a really perfect sixth sense at this. But for some reason, I didn't listen to myself. It's one of those stupid mistakes you make when you're younger, and you should have listened to your inner voice. And that's obviously my mistake and my failing. But now that I'm 49, that mistake is not going to be made anymore. For however much longer I'm around, you know, 10 years, who knows what, but I did make a deal on something a few months ago that's absolutely beautiful. I tell people, a few people I know about it, and they're like, "You're kidding me. It seems impossible." I don't want to give the details of that, but we're talking about $193 an acre. I don't know if you can believe that or not, but you know, if I have to prove it, I can certainly prove it. $193 an acre. Yeah, can you believe that? You better believe it, because it's true. I got the proof in the 3 pieces of paperwork sitting back there in my back room in my safe. So, nice little deed with with all the nice stamps on it, and the county clerk office little stamp with the deed number and page number. And so very proud of that. It's just 2 pieces of paper. It's not as beautiful as the land itself, which is absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, but it's up in far, far eastern Kentucky. It's actually like 2 hours away. You'd be like, is it hilly? It's like, yeah, it's hilly, but it's less than $200 an acre. There is stuff out there like that, so congratulations to the gentleman that I know who's a subscriber who just bought his Kentucky farm. He's so happy about it, and I'm glad it's his now. But on raw land, now land with property on it is something different, but on raw land, since you don't have to maintain it, property taxes, depending on where it's at, of course. Kentucky, it's really low, up in the rural Kentucky. The land is beautiful. You could farm it. Of course, depends on how fertile the land is and what you buy. But I can think of no other better investment. People keep talking about crypto and gold and silver. It's land. I don't claim to be any success at business. I don't really have any money, but I'm 100% certain about land. I know I'm right. My track record on land. Think about that. I mean, if you know, you're putting money away, you know, taking a percentage of that and buying raw land as a redundant backup to your situation in life, like if things get really bad, that you can relocate there. But as an investment that can't be stolen, you can't really steal land. I mean, there are a couple of really weird ways that you can steal land, but land, borrowing some weird, unusual eccentricities of weird things, I wish there are not many, is a sure thing. Of course, you need to make a wise purchase. You're like, I just bought some raw land. It's like, yeah, but it's the ugliest piece of land on earth. So, you know, you have to pick the right piece of land. And I have videos on the attributes of really great land. You know, water, access, um, whether it's landlocked, on and on and on. There's all this stuff you need to know about land. Whether there are any, that's about a title search. You want to look into liens and need to take a look at the PVA office records. There's about a list of 20 things that will tell you the lump sum of what land is in totality. I'm glad I got a sixth sense on that. I wished I'd used this much earlier in life. I did, but then I kind of abandoned it for some unknown reason of being young and stupid. But that's obviously my mistake, so. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This robe is so comfy. Thanks.